Well, these two equations are actually, you can combine, you can do some stuff here in terms of, you can do the quadratic formula or complete the square. I'm going to do one of each. You need this one here, you need it to be equal to 0, so x squared. If you move this over, it becomes a plus 10x, and if you move that over, it becomes a minus 24. But it needs to be equal to 0 if you're going to do the quadratic formula. Although I don't even think we need that because this is very factorable. So we can factor two numbers that multiply together to get negative 24, add together to get 10. Often forgotten, people want to say 6 and 4 because that'll give you a 10, but it's got to be a plus and a minus. So I'm going to call this a plus 12 and a minus 2 because 12 times negative 2 is negative 24 and 12 minus 2 is a positive 10. So your two solutions are going to be x equals negative 12, you set that equal to 0 and solve, and x equals 2, you add 2 to both sides. This is set up to complete the square, and I think I ought to do it this way because I've seen some of you try this before and it's not pretty, to be frank, I guess. If we add something to both sides here, we're going to take that b over 2 squared approach. That's completing the square. 14 divided by 2 is 7, and 7 squared is 49. So I'm going to add 49 to both sides of the equation here. This then becomes factorable x plus 7 quantity squared. That's equal to 49 minus 37. That's actually equal to 15. Okay, 9 minus 4 is 5, 4 minus 3 is 1. Well, that's not a pretty number, at least when we're talking about taking the square root, but it's okay because it doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to be right. X plus 7 is what we end up with here, is equal to, and you're going to need to supply your own plus or minus because it won't show up automatically. When you solve for x by taking the square root of both sides, by the way, if we did quadratic, wouldn't there be a plus or minus the square root? So it shows up in quadratic formula, but quadratic formula is a piece of work sometimes. Okay, the only thing you have left to do is subtract 7 from both sides. Now you get x equals negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 15. It's a lot more work to try and do the quadratic formula than that.